Hello.
Hello.
My name is Mandana Arfa-Kaboodvand, and with my colleague and friend Dr. Saida Akbarova, we are doing this presentation on the stakeholders' views of teaching English as an international language. I am based in Eswatini in the southern part of the African continent, and Saida is based in Uzbekistan in Central Asia. So the two of us together have conducted this study based on the concept of world Englishes and the attention it is receiving these days. We were both researchers and practitioners at the same time, and we had a few thoughts and reservations of the concept of world Englishes. In theory, we love it. It's a great idea, but we were really curious to see what takes place in the classes and the actual world. And also, based on that, we conducted our study, which was seeking the stakeholders' points of views. But before we get started with sharing with you the study, we would like to invite you to reflect on a few concepts and questions. The first one, what do you think about these accents? A Frenchman speaking English with a French accent. Italians speaking English with an Italian accent. Russians speaking English with a Russian accent. An Arab man speaking English with an Arabic accent. And Chinese people speaking English with a Chinese accent. What do you think about them? Just visualize a French chef speaking English with their accent, or Italians moving their hands and gestures, and all of them, and see if you have any special feelings or thoughts about them. How about this one? So put on your language teacher's hats and see in terms of accuracy how you feel about these sentences. So the first one, I love this book. The answer is it? Or can I follow you? Or you got pay the bills or not? I got pay. Do you think they're correct? Are they accurate? The first one, in fact, comes from South African English, and the second one is Malaysian. More examples. What do you think the underlined words mean? You're not required to do it. Yani, I don't have to do it. You don't have to do it. Or hop, let's get started. Again, the first one comes from Arabic, and the second one, hop, is Persian, and sometimes in Uzbekistan you hear people using it as well. Do they mean anything to you? Do you think they are acceptable while you're speaking English? And again, more examples. I'm so hungry, La. I passed out of college. My cousin's sister is coming to town. Long rains may come much more earlier. Do you think they're correct? Just to give you an idea, the first one is Malaysian, the second one Indian, then Indian and in Uzbek, and finally, much more earlier, Tanzanian. So based on these examples and more, now we built our ideas and our thoughts. But let's have a look at a little bit of theories relating to the concept of world Englishes and English. So, Saida,
English is widely recognized as a global language, and Kachru's three-circle model categorizes English into three circles that draw along national lines. The inner circle includes native speakers in countries like the US and the UK. The outer circle includes post-colonial societies like India and Nigeria, and expanding circles constitutes of contexts like China, Iran, and Uzbekistan, and many other countries around the world. At the same time, the concept of global Englishes, emphasizing communication and linguistic diversity, challenging traditional norms of standard English. So, what is standard English? Standard English traditionally associated with the inner circle countries, which adheres to established rules of grammar, spelling, and pronunciation. So while the inner circle norms often serve as benchmarks for linguistic correctness, localized English varieties in outer and expanding circles challenge this standardization. So, the outer and expanding circle varieties illustrate localized innovations that challenge these norms, underscoring the dynamic nature of English in global contexts. Another perspective emphasizes English as a lingua franca, ELF, which prioritizes communicative effectiveness over strict adherence of native speaker norms. This practical approach highlights the importance of intelligibility and communicative competence among speakers from diverse linguistic backgrounds. Another one is the concept of world Englishes, being a sociolinguistic concept, rejects the notion of a single correct standard language and instead celebrates the plurality of English varieties worldwide by focusing on its adaptation to local context, cultures, and identities. However, what happens in our reality? So in the reality, unfortunately, despite the increasing use of English as an international language, non-native speakers may face biases favoring native-like proficiency, particularly in professional settings. And we have Sonia's story, who is a competent PhD holder, graduated from Manchester University, and is proficient in English, is corrected by her boss for her minor English mistakes during meetings in the UK. And we actually also, as a non-native English speaker, sometimes we have this common communication with journal editors. Very general comment, even though the article reads well, it can be further improved by proofreading or language editing. So inspired by cases similar to the given examples and our own experiences as non-native speakers, so our study was focused and we decided to conduct this study, which investigates the perspectives of learners, teachers, and employees on standard English and world Englishes. And our research question is there a consensus among stakeholders, language learners, teachers, and employees regarding the concept of and learning of English as a global language? Also, we have 3 sub-questions which also focus on what are the language learners' preferences regarding learning, what they consider standard vice non-standard English, what are the language teachers' perceptions of global Englishes in the classroom, what are the employees' perceptions of global Englishes for recruiting future employees. So we have the following methodology. We included 65 language learners into our study, and they were asked to complete a short survey regarding their opinions about the English language, focusing on what they considered standard English and their preferences when learning English, and they were from Uzbekistan and Iran. Also, we had 29 language teachers who completed a questionnaire regarding their thoughts on standard English, focusing on what they considered standard English and their preferences when teaching English. So their main languages of communications were Uzbek, Persian, Farsi, Russian, English, Portuguese, and Kazakh. So they worked in Uzbekistan, Iran, Canada, Germany, and Australia. In addition, we interviewed 2 people involved in the recruitment of job applicants, answering questions regarding the recruitment procedures as far as the English language is concerned. One works for UNICEF and the other works for Westminster International University in Tashkent. And now Mandana will continue with the results, discussion, and conclusion of our study.
Okay, the results, I think you can see in the slide that the learners preferred British English to any other accent and other dialect of English. So British English followed by American English. We have a few people that like Australian and Canadian, but very few people have talked about other accents. Then the second question was, if you could choose a dialect of English when learning English, which one would it be? Then the preference was American English, followed by British English, Canadian and Australian as well. Then the third question was a little different. We asked, if you are not Indian, but have decided to live in India for a while, would you even consider to learn Indian English? And as you can see, the majority have said no. Only a very small minority have said that they might consider it. Okay, then we've got a few sentences that we selected out of open-ended answers. It is fine if my language teacher does not have native-like English accent. I think I will have better opportunities if I have native-like English accent, and this was said by 65% of the respondents. And I try to have native-like English accent, which was said by 96% of the speakers, of the learners. Then, like a few concepts to share from the teacher's results. Again, which of the following do you consider standard English? And British and American were on top of the list. And of course, we had 24% of the respondents who said that there is no standard English. Then, if you could choose which dialect of English to teach, which of the following would that be? Again, American and British English are the ones that are dominant in answers. And the next question was, do you ever encourage your students to try to use English with a particular accent, for example, using British or American English? And about 45% said that they don't do that. The rest, like said, yes or maybe. Then we gave them a choice of sentences to decide how they just feel about them. So I encourage the learners to have a native-like English accent. As you can see, quite a large number of them have said yes or to some extent. Or I think non-native English language teachers with native-like accents have better job opportunities. So to some extent was the dominant answer, and teaching about culture should be a part of language teaching. The majority of the teachers had said yes. What do you think about the following sentences, which was about the accuracy of the sentences? So as you can see, the majority have said that they are not acceptable. And what are the sentences? Susan, I have a headache. Jane, is it? Or you should turn right at the robot. Or long rains may come much more earlier. Or my cousin sister is coming to town. My cousin sister is coming to town has been accepted by more people. And mind you, be robot in South African English and in Swazi English means traffic light. So we also had the employers. Employers also were from UNICEF and from Westminster University, and they were supposed to be employing people with good English language proficiency. So UNICEF in an office where they require English language as the main language, and Westminster International University in Tashkent is a transnational university that recruits employees who can speak English. Okay. So the results of what the employers said was that they are open to different varieties of English. Job interviews are conducted in English, and as long as applicants can perform the required tasks during the interview, they are accepted. However, both UNICEF and Wyatt consider British English or British spelling English as the norm. And whenever they've got serious documents, UNICEF will have professional language editing. And Wyatt academic staff are also always encouraged to publish in academic journals. Many of them are obviously in English. So English and standard English seem to still play some role. So final thoughts. English is as a lingua franca is an undeniable means of communication. That is what is happening all the time between and among people of different nationalities. World Englishes is also a linguistic reality. However, it seems that still the inner circle of English considered standard and is the predominant type of English required and favored among the stakeholders. That is what they are basically demanding. So it seems that world language, world English should not be promoted as a norm for teaching, at least for the time being. Still, a lot of people resist it, and they have good reasons for that. So it seems that British and American English are the two main favored standard Englishes. And it seems that depriving language learners of learning a presentable English, or let's say standard English, still deprives them of many opportunities in their jobs for uh, being accepted at universities and so on. And explicit teaching of world Englishes can pose challenges to mutual intelligibility and can disadvantage learners who require that standardized form of English. So, because still the line between what is accurate and what is inaccurate is not clearly drawn. So the world's social, political, economic, even technological developments affect the language use. So you cannot take only the classroom and say, okay, in the classroom, we will promote world Englishes without really considering the social changes that are taking place outside the class. So language is a means of communication. So people should be able to understand each other as well. And despite globalization and increased interactions between natures, culture still is a major part of communication. So finally, English language teachers. Obviously, regardless of how much we accept that standard English, still as language teachers, we bring our own experiences, our own values to the classroom, sometimes consciously and sometimes subconsciously. And this is reflected in the way we use the language, in the body language, accent, life experiences, views of the world, views of education, background, culture, all of that. So being a native speaker does not make a language teacher a better teacher, nor does not being a non-native speaker. And the priority should be considering the needs of language learners. And it seems that at the time being, actually language learners still need standard English more. So, understanding the views of stakeholders can shed light on the obstacles to reform and provide the required support. And in this case, is the required support in terms of learning language or which kind of language they need to learn. So, thank you very much for listening. We hope that you enjoyed our presentation. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.